Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over some of the basic cuts. I'm going to use just a scrap piece of 4-inch long, 1 inch by 1 inch. This doesn't really matter. I'm just going to be using this block to practice on, to make a few cuts on as we go along here. And I'm just going to be using a good knife here. This is an OCC Tools knife. It's a detail blade. There's the logo. This is a very solid knife. It's a good starter knife. It's a good all-in knife. But we're going over whittling today. Basic cuts. So the first cut most people see, if you might see this, what you see in movies or TV shows, no control of the knife, just pushing the blade through the wood or pulling it through the wood. That is not the way that I like to whittle. I don't like to do that because you have no control over the knife. You have no control over where it's going. You have no control over what it's doing. Instead, I like to push it with my left thumb. I like to keep control of that blade. I'm going to push the thumb on the back of the handle or the back of the blade itself like this. And then I'll push it up through the wood. This allows me to, one, get much bigger chunks of wood. Take a look at the size of this thing. People say, I can't believe some YouTubers get a lot of wood out at the time, like when they slice. The amount of wood they cut is insane. How are they doing it? We're not whittling like you might see in an old-timey show. We're using that thumb as a fulcrum, and that allows us to get a whole lot more wood off at once. Now that has pluses and minuses. One of the pluses is you get a lot of wood off. One of the minuses, when you take too much wood off, that wood can splinter, and it's doing it here on this one. And I'm going to pick that piece up, and I'll show you what it looks like. So by carving off a huge piece like that, you can see this piece is starting to split in 2 or 3 spots here. Get close up the camera, you can see it. There, it started cracking. I took off too much with one cut, and it just comes right apart on those seams. It's weak now, right? So you want to avoid taking too much at a time. Instead, when you're doing those slicing cuts, keep control of the knife and take less. A quarter of that amount, maybe. That sounds about right. Or an eighth. Take a little bit of time. You don't take those huge chunks out. And by controlling the knife like this with your thumb, you're being more safe. You're keeping control of where the knife's going, what it's doing, and that keeps you from hurting yourself or somebody else. You've probably noticed that I'm not wearing a carving glove. Everyone should wear a carving glove if they're a new carver. You should have on your left hand, maybe your right hand as well, or at least wrap that right thumb. What I see as a downside of carving gloves is that some people use it as a crutch. What I mean by a crutch is that if you don't develop proper control techniques, carving so that you know where the blade is and where it's going to go and where it will end up at by the end of your slice or cut, then you're going to chance cutting yourself. But if you develop control techniques, carving techniques that keep control of the blade, that don't wildly push or pull the blade around, you'll always know where you're going to end up, what you're going to be cutting, and how you're going to be cutting it, and you're not going to be endangering your fingers. But until you develop those techniques, you should be wearing a carving glove. You should be wearing finger protection at the very least, but a carving glove on the left and right hand is a great place to start. You can find those on Amazon, and I'm not going to give a lot of advice on those because this is just mostly about carving itself. Now we've discussed basic slicing. So let's talk about wood grain here. The wood grain is all going in one direction along the wood. So I'm going to make some slices here. This is the direction the wood grain is going on this particular piece of wood. And you can see that in this view here. We get close up. The grain is all traveling in one direction from bottom to top. Now if we carve downhill, like so, we'll get a nice smooth cut. We're carving into the grain and then the next layer of grain. But if we carve in the opposite direction, we're carving between those grains, and we can get tearing here. So you can kind of see it starting here. If I try to pull up, it won't, and it just splinters the wood or splits it. So I'm going to try again, and it just tears. You see I'm trying to slice up and kind of curve up with the blade, and it just tears that. It makes this terrible looking cut. You'll notice that when whittling. Do it from the other direction. I can kind of curve down with this cut, using that left thumb to power the knife, curving down and in, and I can smooth all that out nice and pretty. Like it didn't have that big problem with all those tearing just a moment ago. So always keep grain direction in mind whenever you're carving. Now let's go ahead and look at doing a different type of cut. Here we're going to look at doing a stop cut. I'm going to push the knife blade straight into the wood, straight up and down, right? And then I'm going to slice up to that line, and that chip just pops on out. This is called a stop cut. You see we've got a stopping line, we slant right up to it, and that cut is going to be used a lot in wood carving and whittling for characters or for lines or for detail work, for all kinds of things you'll see in other videos or in other demonstrations. Next thing I want to go over is a V-cut. And a V-cut is going to come from an angle at both directions. We're going to cut first an angle from the bottom up. We're going to cut in, and then we're going to cut the same angle going backwards from the top. And we meet in the middle, and that creates a little chip. And that, a little bit left in the middle there, we'll fix that real quick. That creates that nice V channel, and that's a V-cut. V-cuts and stop cuts and slicing cuts are the primary cuts that are going to make up most of your carving. A little V-cuts right there. Now, we can classify a dozen other cuts as well. We can classify chip cuts as their own cut, but really that's just a V-cut. We can classify slicing cuts and sweeping cuts, different cuts. And what they mean by a sweeping cut is this: if we cut in, but then angle it down and come back out at an angle like so, that's a sweeping cut, or some people say. To me, it's still just a slicing cut. It's just you're curving it. But we can come up with names for different types of cut all day long. Look at that. Nice and pretty, nice and easy, but we're still just doing a slicing cut and using that left thumb to power the knife through the wood, or using that left thumb as a fulcrum as we rotate the back of the blade down like so and slice through that wood just like that. Alright, so we've gone over slicing cuts, V-cuts, stop cuts, wood grain, and about keeping control of that blade. And that pretty much sums up everything that I wanted to make sure I went over. This is a very short video, and it's intended to be short, just to go over some of the basics, kind of a whittling 101. But I'd like to take this opportunity to say, if there's something you'd like to see on this channel in particular, please put a comment down below. Let me know what it is. If you want to see more of a specific type of carving, if you want to see painting, if you want to see more whittling or just more general tips, if you don't let me know what you want to see, I might not ever get to it. Please do take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really does help, and it encourages me to keep trying to make these kind of things for you. I really appreciate it, everybody. Thank you for stopping by again, and hope you had fun. Bye.